Picture this. You're 9 months pregnant. Your water breaks in front of hundreds of people, and instead of rushing to the hospital, you're on your knees performing CPR on a dying stranger. Now imagine finding out months later that the man whose life you saved is the father of the child you're carrying. This isn't fiction. This is Nia Brooks's story, and what happened next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about fate, family, and the lies people tell to protect their secrets. Atlanta, Georgia, a city of glittering skyscrapers and hidden struggles, where million-dollar galas happen on rooftops while below, in the service corridors and back kitchens, people work double shifts just to survive. This is where we meet Nia Brooks, 28 years old, 9 months pregnant, and holding it together with sarcasm and sheer willpower. Nia wasn't supposed to be working that night. Her feet were swollen, her back ached with every step, and she'd already worked a morning shift at the Vantage rooftop, one of Atlanta's most exclusive hotel venues. But when you're about to become a single mother with rent due and hospital bills looming, you don't turn down extra hours. You tie your apron tighter, pop another antacid, and you push through. But nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen. Nothing could have prepared her for the moment that would change her life, expose family secrets, and put her child in danger. Because sometimes saving someone's life is just the beginning of the story. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. It's late afternoon when Nia arrives at the Vantage for her second shift. The hotel sits on the 20th floor of a glass tower, offering panoramic views of the Atlanta skyline. It's the kind of place where a glass of champagne costs more than Nia makes in a day. She knows this world well. She's worked here for 3 years, long enough to perfect the invisible dance of high-end service. Be present but not noticed, efficient but not rushed, polite but never familiar. Today, though, her body isn't cooperating. As she changes in the staff locker room, she catches her reflection in the mirror. There's a sonogram photo taped inside her locker door. A tiny profile, fingers curled, eyes closed. She touches her belly, feels a kick in response, and allows herself one moment of softness before closing the door and becoming Nia the professional again. Her best friend Nora, a line cook with a sharp tongue and a loyal heart, catches her wincing as she bends to tie her shoe. "You should be home with your feet up," Nora says, not for the first time. Nia just smiles. "And miss all this glamour? Never." It's the kind of joke that masks worry, the kind both women have perfected over years of friendship. The evening's event is a big one. The Sterling Foundation Summit, 7 o'clock, 300 guests. The Sterling family is Atlanta royalty, real estate developers turned philanthropists, their name on hospital wings and scholarship programs across the South. Tonight's gala is raising money for a new community clinic. The irony isn't lost on Nia, who can barely afford her own prenatal care. As guests begin arriving, Nia is stationed on the rooftop terrace, balancing trays of champagne and navigating conversations she's trained not to hear. The sunset paints the sky in shades of amber and rose. String lights flicker on. It's beautiful, she thinks, if you can afford to notice. Then he arrives. Lucas Sterling, 35 years old, the face of the Sterling Foundation, though you wouldn't know it from looking at him. Unlike most of the guests who arrive with entourages and expect attention, Lucas slips in quietly. Simple dark suit, no flashy jewelry except a watch, modest by billionaire standards with a distinctive nick near the crown. He moves through the crowd like someone trying not to be seen, which is unusual for a man whose family built half the city. Nia doesn't recognize him. Why would she? She's too busy working, too focused on not dropping a tray or going into labor in front of Atlanta's elite. When they brush shoulders near the bar, she murmurs a quick apology and keeps moving. He glances at her, pauses for half a second, then continues on. Neither of them knows that in less than an hour their lives will be permanently entangled. But here's something Nia does notice. A catering cart bumps against the stage support. The lighting rig above wobbles. She sees the loosened pin, the way the metal frame shifts just slightly. She mentions it to her manager, who waves her off. "It's fine. Don't worry about things that aren't your job." She rolls her eyes but makes a mental note of where the exits are. Old habit from her hospitality training. Always know where the exits are. Always be ready for an emergency. Would you have noticed? Would you have spoken up, even when dismissed? Think about that for a moment. 7:43 p.m. The speeches have begun. A local councilman is at the microphone thanking the Sterling family for their generosity. The crowd is warm, champagne soft, comfortable. Then it happens. The stage rig jerks. Someone backstage bumped the support. The spotlight, heavy and unbalanced, swings free. It's heading straight for a child, maybe 7 years old, who's wandered too close to the stage. Luca sees it first. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't call for security or wait for someone else to act. He just moves, shoves the kid clear. The rig comes down on him instead. The crack of metal on bone. The terrible sound of impact. Then silence. The crowd freezes. 300 people with phones in their hands and not one of them moves. They stare. They record. They wait for someone else to do something. Have you ever been in a moment like that, where everyone expects someone else to be the hero? Nia is already moving. Her training kicks in before conscious thought does. She's CPR certified, required for all hotel staff, though she never expected to use it. She drops to her knees beside Luca, her pregnant belly making the angle awkward, painful. She checks his airway, checks for breathing, no pulse. She starts compressions, counting under her breath. 1, 2, 3, keeping rhythm, keeping him alive. The crowd forms a circle around them. Phones rise, the videos are already uploading. But Nia isn't thinking about any of that. She's thinking, don't die. Don't you dare die on my floor. Then the contraction hits, sharp, undeniable, splitting her focus. Her hand slaps the ground. She hisses at her own belly. Not now. But babies don't follow schedules. Her water breaks. Fluid spreads across the slate rooftop. People gasp. Someone says, "Oh my God!" But Nia doesn't stop. She doesn't look down. She keeps going. Compression steady, rhythm unbroken. Nora appears beside her, throws down a folded linen for Nia's knee. "I've got you," she says, and Nia nods once. Grateful, focused. Another contraction. She breathes through it, keeps going. How long has it been? 30 seconds? 2 minutes? Time distorts in emergencies. Then a gasp. Faint breath from Luca. She rolls him carefully, clears his airway. Sirens approach. The paramedics are coming. She's done it. She's kept him alive. But her labor is accelerating. Another contraction, stronger now. She leans back, finally letting someone else take over, and only then does she realize she's soaked, exhausted, and about to have a baby. Tonight, right now. They take them in separate ambulances. Luca unconscious, a breathing tube down his throat, paramedics working with controlled urgency. His watch catches the cabin light as they bag him, that same distinctive nick near the crown. In the other ambulance, Nia is riding through contractions that feel like her body is tearing apart. She squeezes Nora's fingers hard enough to hurt, but even through the pain, she's still giving instructions. "He's bradycardic," she tells the paramedic about Luca, her voice tight. "Keep oxygen up. Tilt his head." The medic looks at her, surprised. "You medical?" Nia shakes her head. "Just observant." At the hospital, their gurneys split at the emergency room doors. For one brief second, Nia's hand brushes the blanket covering Luca as they're pulled in different directions. Then the doors slam shut. Two strangers, connected by a moment of crisis, separated by walls and medical urgency. Nia is rushed to the delivery room, Luca to trauma, both fighting their own battles, both unaware of the connection that's about to be revealed. In the delivery room, Nia rides contractions that seem endless. She's alone except for Nora and the medical team. No partner holding her hand, no family in the waiting room. This is what single motherhood looks like from the start. She bites her lip to keep from screaming, not because she's trying to be strong, but because she's so tired of people looking at her with pity. Down the hall in trauma, they're fighting to stabilize Luca. Broken ribs, possible internal bleeding. Traumatic brain injury. The team moves with clipped precision. His mother, Evelyn Sterling, arrives and stands at the window, One hand pressed to the glass, the other to her chest. Then a cry, thin at first, then strong and insistent. Nia's son enters the world. She laughs without sound, tears quick and unexpected. They place him on her chest, this tiny human she's been carrying for 9 months, and everything else fades. The pain, the fear, the impossibility of what comes next. For this one moment, there's just him. In recovery an hour later, Nia tucks her son close. She's scanning the hallway, still processing what happened on that rooftop, when a nurse wheels a gurney past. A hand slips out from under the sheet. That watch again, the same distinctive nick. She stares at it, something nagging at the edge of her consciousness. But exhaustion wins. She looks down at her baby instead. "You owe me at least 3 breakfasts in bed," she whispers to him, dry humor her default setting even now. By morning, Nia's story is everywhere. Pregnant waiter saves billionaire during labor. The video footage is impossible to ignore. Nia on her knees. The moment her water breaks, the way she never stopped compressions, it's gone viral. Millions of views, hundreds of thousands of shares. Strangers debating whether she's a hero or just doing her job. Others criticizing the bystanders who stood and filmed. The internet does what it does best, takes a human moment and turns it into content. Nia sits in her hospital room, her phone buzzing with notifications from people she hasn't spoken to in years. She turns it off, looks at her own hands. These hands saved a life last night. These hands are now responsible for another. At the Sterling estate, Evelyn watches the video twice and sits very still afterward, one hand on her chest. Something about that young woman, the determination, the grace under pressure. She makes a note to find out her name. In the ICU, Luca blinks awake to white ceiling tiles and muted voices. Someone tells him, "You're lucky. A server saved your life." He tries to process this, tries to remember. There are gaps in his memory, flashes of light, the sound of impact, then nothing. He doesn't remember Nia's face. Not yet. 2 days later, Nia is being discharged. She's navigating the hospital corridors with her newborn in a bassinet, every muscle in her body screaming from labor in the physical trauma of that night. She passes the ICU. There's a guard outside one of the rooms. She pauses, curious despite herself. Is that him? The man she saved? She doesn't get an answer. The guard steps forward, politely but firmly blocking her view. "Family only." She nods, keeps moving. At the elevator bank, she presses the button. Doors open, and there he is, Luca Sterling, unsteady on his feet, leaning on a cane, but conscious, alive. Their eyes meet. For 3 seconds, they just look at each other. 3 seconds where something passes between them. Recognition, gratitude, something else. But before either can speak, a crowd of reporters surges forward. Security moves in. The elevator doors close. Nia rides down alone, heart pounding for reasons she can't quite name. In the elevator, Luca presses the button again, watches the numbers descend. His breathing quickens. He touches his watch, rubs the nick absently. Something about her. Something familiar, but the memory won't come. 1 week later, Nia is home. A small 1-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where you can hear your neighbors' conversations through the walls. She's surviving on no sleep, learning to breastfeed, drowning in the reality of newborn care. The romance of motherhood, she's discovering, is mostly laundry and exhaustion. Then someone slides an envelope under her door. Cream-colored, heavy paper, embossed with the Sterling Foundation seal. An invitation. She's being honored at their annual benefit gala. A thank you for her heroism. Black tie, next month. Nia stares at it, then at the past due notice from her landlord sitting on the counter. The contrast is almost funny. She laughs once, short and disbelieving. Heroism doesn't pay rent, she mutters to no one. Meanwhile, across town, in a sleek PR office, Simone Rhee is watching social media sentiment graphs with Marcus Sterling, Luca's older half-brother. Marcus is the COO of Sterling Development, polished and strategic in ways Luca has never been. Where Luca builds clinics, Marcus builds profit margins. America loves a miracle, Simone says, tracking the metrics. Marcus sips his coffee, smiles that empty corporate smile. He doesn't finish the sentence, but the implication hangs in the air. Until it doesn't. Until they find something to criticize. Until the narrative shifts. But there's something else in Marcus's expression. Something calculating. He's been watching the news coverage differently than everyone else. Not seeing a hero, seeing a complication. Nia sits in her apartment, staring at that invitation, and her mind drifts back. 8 months ago. Before the pregnancy, before everything changed. She'd just finished a brutal late shift at the Vantage. Her ankles were swollen, her hair was loose, and she was counting tips at the hotel bar, too tired to go straight home. The bar was nearly empty. Soft jazz playing. The bartender she was friendly with, sliding her a ginger ale without asking. Then a man sat down in the corner. Hoodie under a blazer. No flashy watch. No driver waiting outside. No entourage. Just a guy who looked like he needed somewhere quiet to think. He introduced himself as Miles. Just Miles. Something about his smile told her he was keeping secrets. But in that moment, she didn't care. She was keeping her own. They talked. About ridiculous drink names. About the worst playlist the hotel insisted on using. About life plans that never quite work out the way you imagine. She teased him. He listened in a way that made her feel seen, not observed. It was easy, comfortable. The kind of conversation where you forget to check your phone because you're actually present. One night became one choice. Two lonely people choosing warmth over solitude. She woke the next morning to sunlight and an empty bed. He'd left a hotel room key on the nightstand. No name, no number. Just a note. Thank you. And a paper plane, folded from hotel stationery, sitting on the nightstand. She kept the paper plane. She doesn't know why. Maybe because it felt like proof that the night was real. That for a few hours she wasn't just a waitress struggling to make rent. She was someone worth staying up all night talking to. Now in her apartment, she opens her wallet and pulls out that paper plane. Creased but intact. She looks at the Sterling Foundation invitation again. Takes a breath. Fine, she says to her sleeping son. Let's see where this goes. How many of you have had a moment like that? A connection that felt significant, only to have the person disappear? What would you do if you saw them again? 1 month later, Nia steps into the Sterling Foundation benefit wearing a borrowed dress and practical flats with a bow. She's left her son with Nora, pumped milk stored in the fridge with detailed instructions. She feels exposed under the chandeliers and camera flashes, but she keeps her chin level. She survived labor in public. She can survive this. The room is full of Atlanta's elite. Politicians, donors, society columnists taking notes. Everyone wants to meet the pregnant waiter who became an overnight symbol of everyday heroism. They want photos. They want quotes. They want her story to fit their narrative. Then Luca takes the stage. He looks better than he did in the hospital, though there's still something careful in the way he moves. He thanks the crowd, acknowledges the work of the foundation, and then he turns to her. Tonight, we honor someone whose courage saved my life. His eyes find hers in the crowd. Someone who, in her most vulnerable moment, chose to help a stranger. The room erupts in applause. Cameras flash. Nia walks to the stage. They shake hands for the photographers. But when their palms touch, something happens. The room seems to fade. The applause becomes distant. Luca's eyes widen, just a fraction. He's looking at her like he's trying to solve a puzzle. She looks down at their joined hands, sees his watch, that distinctive nick near the crown. Her breath catches. The applause roars back, loud and insistent. He leans in, voice barely audible beneath the noise. Have we met before? Nia pulls her hand back, her voice dry, defensive. You almost died on my floor. That's plenty. She can feel Simone watching from the side of the stage. Marcus watching from the back of the room, completely still. She touches the paper plane folded in her palm, hidden in her fist, and suddenly she's not sure coming here was a good idea. Nia escapes to the service hallway behind the stage as soon as she can. She needs air, needs space, needs to think. The paper plane feels like it's burning a hole in her palm. Footsteps behind her. She doesn't need to turn around to know it's him. Wait, Luca says, hands up, careful with distance. No cameras, just me. His voice is gentle but insistent. I need to ask you something. The noise of the party swells, almost drowning him out. He fumbles in his pocket and pulls out a matchbook. Old worn. From the Vantage Hotel bar. The same bar from 8 months ago. He doesn't offer it to her, just holds it. Lets her see. Nia's breath stutters. Her mind is racing. Miles, Luca, the watch, the matchbook, the paper plane. All the pieces are there, but she's not ready to assemble them. Not here, not in public. A camera flash pops from somewhere. A photographer who followed them. The moment freezes, captured for tomorrow's gossip columns. Luca takes a step back, respecting her space even though everything in his body language says he wants answers. I'm sorry, he says quietly. I didn't mean to ambush you. Nia turns away, fighting tears she won't let fall. Not here. I have to go, she says, and she leaves him standing in that corridor, holding a matchbook and a question he can't quite form. The next morning, Nia wakes to her phone exploding with notifications. The photo from the corridor has been leaked. Nia and Luca standing too close, his hand extended with that matchbook. The headlines are already writing themselves. Billionaire's hero waiter, more than meets the eye? Secret connection between Sterling and server? Someone has dug up old security footage from the hotel bar. Grainy, distant shots of Nia and a man in a hoodie 8 months ago. You can't see faces clearly, but the timeline is there. The implication is obvious. Nia reads comments until her phone battery dies. Strangers analyzing her life, debating her motives, calling her opportunistic, gold digger, liar. Others defending her, arguing in circles. The internet has turned her into a symbol again, but this time the narrative is uglier. She tosses the phone across the couch, then immediately picks it up again. She needs to know what they're saying. It's compulsive, painful, impossible to stop. At Sterling headquarters, Marcus is in the boardroom with the company's board of directors. He slides documents across the polished table. Financial transfers. Funds that were supposed to go to the new community clinic pilot, diverted, into an account linked to Nia's name. The room goes silent. Lucas stares at the papers, jaw flexing. This is fake, he says, but his voice wavers. How can he be sure? He barely knows her. Marcus sits back, expression carefully neutral. I hope so, brother. I really do. But we need to investigate, because she might have an insider feeding her information. Marcus was playing the perfect corporate move. Raise doubt, plant seeds, protect the family name. Luca doesn't defend Nia out loud, but he stands, leaves the boardroom, and returns with his laptop and headset. Give me 24 hours, he says to the board, before we accuse anyone of anything. It wasn't long before the news about the missing money got to Nia. That night, Nora sits at her kitchen table, surrounded by takeout boxes and a busted old MacBook held together with duct tape and determination. She's been friends with Nia long enough to know when something doesn't add up. And these financial accusations, they stink. I told you to change your passwords to something that isn't your birth year, she mutters, fingers flying across the keyboard. Nora isn't a hacker, but she knows people who know people. And she knows how to track digital footprints if you're patient enough. Meanwhile, at the Sterling Foundation's IT hub, Luca has pulled in his security team. They're running server logs, access histories, IP addresses, tracing every step of those fraudulent transfers. It takes 6 hours. 6 hours of coffee and careful analysis. But the trail is clear. The transfers didn't come from Nia's laptop. They came from an office computer at Sterling Development Headquarters, Marcus's office, and they were routed through a secondary device, Simone's laptop. Nora sends Nia a screenshot, IP logs, timestamps, access records, proof. Nia stares at it for a long moment, then forwards it to Luca with just a location ping. No words, no explanation needed. She adds one more text, more to herself than anyone. Dear Universe, I'd like fewer plot twists and more naps. 2 nights later, Nia returns to work at the Vantage. She needs normalcy, needs to feel useful, needs the tips because her bank account is screaming. The media attention has died down slightly. enough that she thinks she can slip back into her old life. It's late. The restaurant is closed. She's in the back of house, helping Nora close down the kitchen. That's when she notices it. A burner left on. Oil in a pan, shimmering too hot. Dangerous. She moves toward it, then pauses. Something's wrong. A shadow passes the glass door, a figure slipping out the service exit. Her instincts scream. The pan ignites. Flames crawl up the exhaust hood. The fire alarm screams. Sprinklers activate. Nia doesn't freeze. She grabs the extinguisher without thinking, angles the spray, kills the fire. Her clothes are soaked. Her hair drips. She coughs through the smoke, one hand protective on her abdomen, even though her baby is safe at home with her neighbor. She stands there in the ruined kitchen, water raining down, and she laughs. Once, incredulous. This is her life now. Viral videos and assassination attempts, she thought. She pushes through the service door into the stairwell. Red emergency lighting, the smell of smoke, and something else. Cologne. Expensive. Familiar. She smelled it at the gala. On the stairs, she finds a lighter. Dropped, engraved. MS. Marcus Sterling. How far would someone go to protect their position? Their inheritance? Would you be able to see it coming? Or would you trust family until it was too late? An empty parking garage. Midnight. Rain slicking the concrete. Sirens approaching in the distance. Lucas stands by a pillar waiting. He's seen the evidence. Knows what his brother did. But knowing and confronting are different things. This is his family. His blood. The person he's trusted his whole life. Marcus emerges from shadow, drenched. He's not running, not hiding. He walks toward Lucas slowly, almost casually, like they're meeting for coffee instead of a reckoning. Luca holds up his phone. The screenshot Nia sent. The IP logs. The proof. He doesn't raise his voice. Doesn't need to. You framed her. You tried to burn down her workplace. Why? Marcus smiles. It's tired. Cornered. The smile of someone who knows the game is over but wants the last word anyway. You picked a server over the family, he says, rain running down his face. Do you understand what that looks like? What the board thinks? What mother thinks? I picked the truth, Lucas says quietly. I picked doing the right thing. The right thing, Marcus repeats, almost laughing. You always were naive, little brother. Then came a sound behind them. Nia steps out from behind a concrete pillar. She's still holding the fire extinguisher from earlier, though she sets it down now with a heavy thunk. She pulls the engraved lighter from her pocket and slides it across the wet concrete toward Marcus. It spins and stops at his shoe. She doesn't say anything. Doesn't need to. Heels click on concrete. Simone appears, realizing too late that she's misjudged the ending. She's holding her phone like she might record this, monetize it somehow, but squad cars are already pulling into the garage, lights spinning blue and red across the walls. A detective steps out. Detective Cole, who's been quietly gathering evidence for days. We done here? She asks. No one answers. It's already done. Marcus is arrested. Simone is taken in for questioning. The Sterling family's perfect public image cracks wide open. And Nia stands in the rain, exhausted and vindicated, and wondering what comes next. 3 days later, in the hospital nursery, Nia and Lucas sit side by side behind the glass, watching her son sleep. Their son, though they haven't said it out loud yet. The silence between them is heavy with things unsaid. Apologies, explanations. Questions about what happens now. Luca takes off his watch, the one with the distinctive nick. He sets it in his palm, then slides it across the narrow space between them. Not as a gift, as a confession. I'm Miles, he says quietly. I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you everything. Nia doesn't speak. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out the paper plane, creased and worn from being carried everywhere. She sets it next to the watch. 2 objects. 2 pieces of a puzzle that's finally complete. Luca's breath shakes. He looks at the baby through the glass. This tiny person he didn't know existed until a few days ago. His hand trembles once, then steadies against the window. I'm sorry, he says. I'm sorry I disappeared. I'm sorry you went through the pregnancy alone. I'm sorry my family put you in danger. Nia finally looks at him, really looks at him. You couldn't have known, she says. It's not forgiveness exactly, but it's a start. What do we do now? He asks. Now? Nia exhales slowly. Now we figure it out. Ground rules first. He nods, ready to take notes with his life. I'm listening. No more aliases, she says, and there's the faintest hint of a smirk. I'm allergic. His mouth twitches. Almost a smile. Noted. Dawn in Atlanta. The city is quiet in that brief window before traffic and chaos return. Nia and Luca walk through a small park, pushing a stroller together. They're awkward, careful, learning each other. They navigate a curb. He reaches for the stroller handle. She lets him. They move in sync, just barely, figuring out the rhythm. The paper plane sits in the stroller's cup holder, catching the first light of morning. So, Nia says, breaking the silence, tell me about the real Luca Sterling, not the foundation, not the headlines. You. He thinks about it. He's still trying to figure that out, he admits. But he'd like help, if you're willing. She glances at him sideways. I make no promises except honesty. And I need you to be honest too. About everything. Your family. Your life. What you want from this. I want to know my son, Luca says immediately. And I want to know you. The real you. Not the viral video, not the hero in the headlines. Just Nia. They walk a little further. The baby stirs, makes a small sound, settles again. This isn't going to be easy, Nia warns. Your family's going to have opinions. The media is going to be all over this. People are going to judge. Let them, Luca says quietly. I'm done living for their approval. Nia stops walking, turns to face him. Are you sure? Because once we do this, once we really try to make this work as parents, as whatever we are, there's no going back. You can't change your mind when it gets hard. I'm sure, he says, and he means it. She studies his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. Finds none. Okay then, she says. Let's figure out how to do this. They keep walking. Two strangers learning to be parents. Two people connected by crisis and circumstance. Choosing to build something intentional from the chaos. Above them, the sky brightens. The city wakes up, and somewhere a paper plane catches the light. A reminder that sometimes the smallest things carry us through. So what do you think? Could you trust someone after discovering they'd hidden their identity? Could you co-parent with a stranger? Could you forgive a family that tried to destroy you? Nia's story reminds us that life rarely follows the script we imagine, that heroism isn't always glamorous, that sometimes the people we save end up saving us right back, and that the truth, no matter how complicated, is always worth fighting for. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts. Tell us what you would have done. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our upcoming stories. Because real life, it's messier, more complicated, and more beautiful than any fiction we could write.